Hey guys, happy Sunday. Today is day 14 of the 40 days of surrender. I hope I got the day right, but if it's not, I'll correct it. But today is day 14, I believe, of the 40 days of surrender. And this won't be my first time on today, so you guys will actually get a bonus word to this word, but I just wanted to put this out there just so that I can marinate and, those that it's for, you can meditate on it. So I'm putting it out there. I'm putting this word out first so that, again, it can marinate for who it's for. You can kind of sit with it and meditate. It's a marinate and meditate moment. So that's why I'm putting this word out first. But this word actually comes from a dream that the Lord gave me earlier this week. And I went on my balcony with my coffee today and just began to sit with him and study this word. And it just came together so well. But the Lord allowed me to experience something this week as well, which coincides with this dream, because God is very strategic. And if we look for him in the everyday things that are happening in our lives, we can get so much more clarity and revelation about what the Lord is speaking on. If we just look, and I know some of us, we have a part of us is exhausted, like we're tired, but if you still just look for him in it and just praise him in it, like he will begin to reveal so much more of something he's already previously told you or showed to you. So I studied the dream on the balcony this morning as I was having my morning coffee. And then this part of the word the Lord gave to me as I went for a 3-mile walk this morning at a local park here. So after I had my coffee on the balcony, I got dressed and went to the park, and I went for a 3-mile walk. And that's when the Lord revealed this part to me. And he was so very strategic with it. So let's get into this word. Again, today is day 14, I believe, of the 40 days of surrender. And I'm not sure what the title of this word is going to be. What the Lord is saying is that there had to be a breaking in order for him to bring it back together. There had to be a breaking in order for him to bring it back together, in order for him to bring you back to this original place of rest that he has for you, in order to bring this other individual back into this union that God has for them and for the both of you. There had to be a breaking. Something had to break in order to bring it back. So again, I'm not going to get into the dream, but I'm going to give you guys this very short and powerful word that the Lord actually allowed me to experience this week. And I didn't know that it was for this. I do now. Um, but I am a person. Let me back up a little bit. Back in the early part of 2021, the beginning of 2021, the beginning of the year, I was standing for my marriage at that time. I'm not a stander anymore. For those of you that are new, for those of you that have been here for a while, you know how that rolled out and where God has me now, but I'm not a stander anymore. But I was previously married and divorced. And the Lord had me standing at this time. And during this time, I would go on walks, long walks, similar to what I did today. And I haven't done a walk like this in a very long time. But I would go on really long walks at the beginning of 2021. And this went on for actually a couple of years after that. I would just go on 3-4 mile walks, sometimes even more. And this was something that I did daily. I would do it daily. I would do it at the beginning, like before I even start my day at work. I would go walking after work. And if you even go back, a lot of the prophetic words that the Lord had me release, I would do it as I was on these walks. And I mean, my walks would be miles and miles, right? It was just something that I like to do, of course, to stay healthy, to stay in shape. Walking does wonders. So if you're looking for somewhere to start, just start with walking. But I would walk a lot because healthcare, being healthy, feeling good in my body, is a big thing for me, right? And there's so many people that can't walk. They're bound to wheelchairs, they're bedridden, but as long as I can walk, and God, you just thank God for the movement, I'm going to get out there and walk, or whatever the case, go to the gym, work out. That's a big part of my life, my daily life. But back then, I'd rather walk, and I didn't care how hot it was outside. I didn't care how cold it was outside. I would walk in any type of weather. I would just walk and walk and walk. I would worship. I would sit with God. I would listen to his prophecies, and just like I would be in his presence. And it was just me. I wouldn't go walking with anybody. I would just walk, and it was just my time to spend with God. I would bring my dreams back to him and just allow him to piece the words together on that walk. And it was just my quiet time with him. And I wasn't a big walker like this until after my divorce. I was in such a broken state, and just letting God repair everything, that walking was my safe place. Walking was my safe place. I could not go a day without going on some type of long walk. Even if I couldn't do 3-4 miles, I was doing 2 miles. I was doing a mile. I was doing something because I needed it. Walking was literally my safe place. And it was like a place of rest for me in the midst of chaos. And again, I didn't become a huge walker like this until after my divorce, because I would just need to, I worked from home like I do now, and I would just need to get out of my own headspace and just be in God's presence and feel free and feel the sun and all these things. And if you know, here in Texas, the sun will beat on you. Okay. I didn't care. I would just walk and sweat and just be in his presence. And again, that was my safe place. That was my place of rest when I was walking. Right. So fast forward, maybe about 2023, the middle of 2022 to now, I began to go back into the gym and working out and stuff. And I would still work out when I walked back then, but my favorite kind of exercise to do was walking. But now I'm like in the gym every day. And then again, this started like the middle of 2022. I switched from walking a lot to just going to the gym. So that became my new routine. That became my regular routine. So I went to go to the gym on Friday here in my complex, and it said the gym was closed for repairs. As long as I've been here, our gym has never been closed for any repairs. It looks like it's in tip-top condition to me. Like, it's never been closed for repairs, but it said it's closed for repairs. So I go in the office on Friday. I'm like, hey, the gym is closed. I'm like, do we know when it's going to be fixed? How long? And she's like, probably not until next week. She's like, a piece of the ceiling fell in. So they needed to bring someone to repair the ceiling. And I hope y'all are listening spiritually. A piece of the ceiling fell, a piece of the covering fell. Okay, catch that. So they had to bring people in to repair. So they're like, maybe next week, we don't really know. Of course, I was a bit disappointed because, again, I work out every day. This is something I do all the time just to make me feel better. And I'm like, it's a part of my health routine. It's a part of my mental. It's just what I do, and it's closed. And God brought me back to walking. He brought me back to walking. So I had remembered that earlier the week before, I had spotted a park that's really close to my house, not even 5 minutes away. And the Lord brought that back to my remembrance. And I said, okay, I'm going to check out this park. So I went to the park on Friday and I walked, and I did about maybe 1.5 miles because I went after work. It was, I didn't want it to get too dark. So I did total that day, I did 3 miles, but at the park, I did maybe 1.5 miles. And I found it to be so peaceful, so quiet, so serene. And it reminded me of my original place of rest, of my original place of just comfort. It brought me back to where I used to go, right? To where I used to be. This was my place of rest, my safe haven. And that feeling came back over me, right? So today, as I studied this word the Lord gave me, and I'm walking in the park, and today I did 3 miles. I did a little over 3 miles. I went out this morning before the sun came beaming out, and I just walked. And I did a little over 3 miles. But as I was walking, the Lord spoke to my heart, and he said, I had to break it. I had to allow it to break in order to bring you back to your original place of rest, in order to bring you back to your original safe haven. I had to allow something to break in order to bring you back. And I don't know who this is for today, but I sense this very strongly for marriage restoration. For those of you that are waiting for marriage restoration, this is not for everybody. So take this word to God, but God had to allow something in that marriage, in that union, to break in order to bring you back. And now he's bringing you back to that place that you probably said you never go back to. I'm never coming back here. Like, I'm done with this. I'm never flying back to this state. I'm never coming back to this house. I'm never coming back to this place with this person. There's so much heartbreak there. You're over it. You're done. This is a place that you probably said, I'm never going to go back to. But God is saying he had to allow something to break in order to bring you back to the original safe haven, to your original place of rest that he had destined for you. And it's not just one-sided, because something with this other person that is connected to you, with this other person that's ordained to be in your life, something has broken. He has allowed something to break in order to bring them back to you. But he also allowed something to break in order to bring you back to your original place of rest. And I pray that this is making sense spiritually. I couldn't go to the gym, something that I'm now used to doing. God needed to take me back to my original safe place, to my original place of rest. He took me back to the walking trail. That's where I originally started. But because I started working out at the gym, this became my new. But God allowed that gym to be shut down for repairs because the covering needed to be fixed. Y'all better catch this. God speaks to me in parables. The covering needed to be repaired. So this place was closed. So I couldn't go back to the new place that I'm used to going to. But God allowed it to break in order to bring me back to the original designated place, to the original place of rest, to the original safe haven. And again, for whoever this is for, something has broken in that other person's life that's going to bring them right back to you. Something has broken that's going to bring them right back to you. But they had to go through God first. When something breaks, it takes a person realizing that this is not where this isn't where it's at. This isn't where I'm supposed to be. Wow, I've missed the mark. When God allows something to break, we come to a realization of something. That person is coming to the realization of something. And that breaking caused them to seek God. And when they sought God, God is telling them exactly where their place of rest is, exactly what they need to go back to. So he has allowed a breaking on both sides. And he's bringing you back to the original place, to the original ordained designated place. He's bringing that person back to the original ordained designated place, but something had to break in order for God to start repairing it. He's the repairer of the breach. He repairs things that are broken that shouldn't have never been broken. So as he's repairing it, he's sending both people back from the original, back to the original, back to the beginning, back to how he originally designed it to be. And I pray the Lord that this is making sense for who it's for, because I can't stop the way God speaks to me. He does not speak to me in straight, clear English terms. I have to seek him out to see what's going on. I have to open my spiritual eyes to understand that, hey, God is speaking through this. And he brought me back to the prodigal son. He allowed the prodigal son's father. Did I say that right? The prodigal son. Yeah, he allowed the prodigal son's father's heart to break. And he allowed the prodigal son's pockets to break, for him to go broke, in order to bring them both back to the original place that they should have been together all along. He allowed a breaking on both ends. The prodigal son's father's heart was broken because his son chose to take everything and go. And then the prodigal son had to go broke, literally, in order to break and realize who his father is. And it sent both of them back to the original place, back to that original place of rest, back to that original union where God had it meant, or God had it ordained, what God meant it to be all along. It sent them both back to the beginning, to their original place, to their original connection. But they both had to experience a breaking. And that was the same for many of you. Many of you had to have broken hearts in order for God to send you back to the original. The other person experienced a breaking. They had to realize who their father is, not was, God is still, he's still today. They had to realize who their father is. Why am I here in this pig's pen when my father is rich? When my father has everything that my heart desires? Why am I here around garbage? Y'all better catch this. Why am I here around garbage? Why am I eating straps when my father has everything? All I have to do is seek first the kingdom of heaven, and everything else I desire will be added onto me. Why am I here? Why am I in this counterfeit relationship? Why am I in this place surrounded by all these wrong people? Why is my heart so cold towards the person in the place that God has for me? That's my safe place. So God had to allow a breaking on both sides in order for there to be a repairing of the breach, in order to mend this thing, in order to bring it back together. He's bringing you back to the original place. He's bringing you back to how it originally was supposed to be. And for many of you, like I said, you said, I'm never coming back here. And now that God has healed you and you ain't experiencing no void, you like, I'm going back. Well, you're going back to the original place that God designated for you all along, but he had to allow there to be a breaking in order for there to be a repairing, a mending on both parts. He's taking you back the original path. And God works so mysteriously. I didn't know that the repairing of the gym was going to lead me back to doing something that I haven't done since I was standing for my marriage. That was my thing I used to do as a stander when I just wanted to sit with God and commune with him. And it was just, I just needed to be in that place of just walking and experiencing the Lord and having him revealed to me. And in the midst of that, he was repairing my heart. And he took me right back to that place. He closed the place, the new place that I was used to going, in order to take me back to the original path. And I pray that this makes sense for who it's for. And if you look at the story of the prodigal son's father was also a stander. He was a stander. It wasn't called that back then, but he stood in the gap for his son. You know how I know? Because the Bible tells us that as his son was far off, the father saw him. So that means that there was a waiting. The father was waiting on his son. For me to see my son far off as he's on his way home, I was standing, I was waiting for that moment. I'm going to read it to you guys really quickly. Luke 15, verse 20. I'm going to read from the King James Version. Let's go back to the original. Okay, let's go back to the original version. And he rose and came to his father. But when he was yet a great way off, great means far, like long. When he was yet a great way off, his father saw him and had compassion and ran and fell on his neck and kissed him. The prodigal son's father was a stander. He was waiting for his son. He was standing for his son. If he was in the house chilling, he wouldn't have saw his son coming from such a far way. He had to be in place and in position in order to see him coming. He was a stander too. So God allowed the prodigal son's heart to break. He allowed the prodigal's son to go broke and for him to experience a breaking inside of a pig's pen in order to bring them both back to their original positions together as a unit, as a union. So I pray that this makes sense. In the midst of your hurting and pain, just like in the midst of my hurting and pain, my long walks, I was seeking God. I wasn't seeking my ex-husband. I wasn't calling him. I wasn't checking on his Facebook. I wasn't doing all that. My walking and my long daily walking journeys were with God. I was seeking God for restoration of my broken heart. I was seeking God to repair me. I was seeking God to bring me in commune with him. I wasn't seeking that man. I was seeking the man, my first husband, God. And as the prodigal son was in this pig's pen and he broke in, he had to remember who his father was. The point of God breaking you and bringing you into a place where you have to look around like, why am I here? Is so that you can remember who he is. Whoever this other person is, they are remembering who their father is, and God is leading them right back to his original designated place for them. Who he brings together, let no man separate. And that is not just for marriages. That's whatever divine union that God has connected here on this earth. Whatever he brings together, it is done. Whatever he puts together, it is done. No man can rip that thing apart. If God has planned it, it is what will be done. He's God. No one can break anything that he puts together. So God had to break it in order to bring it back to its original position. So that is the word for today, guys. I'll do the dream a little bit later today. But for now, I think just let that marinate and meditate on it. Just a marinate and meditate moment for whoever it's for. Please do not comment your whole life story in the comment section. Save that time and just take this word back to God. Take me back to God and just sit with him today. Let your sitting with him and your communing with him just be your time of worship. Your worship time does not have to look like everybody else. You don't have to have loud music jamming. Your worship time is communing with God. It's praising God. It's seeking God. Praising God. So take this word back to him, guys. I'm going to go run out for a little bit, get some stuff done, and we will talk soon, guys. But happy Sunday. This is day 14, I hope, of the 40 days of surrender. I'll make sure. But yeah, that's the word, guys. I love you, and I hope you had a great weekend, and we'll talk soon. Bye, guys.